Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday at 8:30 p.m. It's Friday the something. I have no idea what date it is. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you are doing well wherever you are in the world right now. And here in Nova Scotia, things seem to be easing off a little. Rules are getting relaxed more and more, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. We are down, I think, at the last count to one single case of COVID-19. And no new cases for I think 9 days now, 9 or 10 days. Let's all hang in there, but keep being safe. It's great to have you here. This is Neptune's way of staying in touch with our subscribers, our sponsors, our donors, our friends, our colleagues around the province and around the country. And we've been doing this for quite a few weeks now. This is our last Friday night show for a while. After this week, we are going back down to one night a week. Thursday nights will be off the leash night, and we'll continue to bring you guests throughout the summer. I want to thank Support for Culture for their ongoing support as we continue with the show. I am so excited to talk to our guest this evening for a little one-on-one chat. Every now and again, as the artistic director, you hire someone who has a great resume and you really you enjoy meeting and you click with and you think, oh, this is going to be good. And they're creative and they that they're going to bring something to your theater. And then when you work with them, everything that you thought about them becomes true, and you suddenly think, oh my goodness, this is perfect. Deanna Choi was one such hire for me in the last couple of years, and I'm very thrilled that she is here with us tonight. I'm not going to say anything nice about her. I'm sure she wasn't listening from the green room. Please welcome Deanna Choi. Hello.
Hi, Jeremy.
How are you? You didn't hear any of that, did you?
No, nothing.
Would that be awkward?
Yeah, very awkward.
I will tell you, though, I did enjoy meeting you and having you come to Neptune. We worked on the show Cinderella together a couple of years ago, for which you were sound designer. And by the way, I think you take the prize now for the name subtitle on your screen there. Can you explain that for us?
Sure, yes. So this was during Tech Week, and my Chrysalis sound apprentice was June Zink. And the two of us were hanging out during tech rehearsal, and you had a question for us or a note or something like that. So you just said, oh, hey there, Team Sound. And then all of a sudden you sort of retracted yourself and you're like, oh, I shouldn't refer to you as a monolith. Like, you're not just sound, you're people, obviously. And then I just sort of turned to June, and in my I am Groot voice, I went, I am sound, and so that's why.
So I got you to tell that story because it makes me smile, because it makes you do that voice, and also because it exposes something about you, that you are a bit of a geek.
What?
You didn't know?
No, I had no idea.
I am so sorry to be the one to break it to you. I really am. You have a penchant for geekdom, nerddom. This is what I understand. This is what June Zink told me. I don't know. She's the one that said it.
I mean, I had no idea that I was named after a Star Trek character. So
your name's Will Riker? No.
Yeah. True story. True story.
Well, yeah. I am happy to engage with you. Get it?
Like
Star Trek. That was a Star Trek joke. Oh, you missed it? You missed. Oh.
No, I got it. I got it now. I got it.
Yeah. So thank you for pointing out the name thing. So here we brought you in to do Cinderella, but I want to take you, before we talk about your time at Neptune, and also you came back to do the amazing Controlled Damage earlier this year. And thank you for your work in that as well. What an amazing show. And we had you booked to come back and do another show.
Yep.
Which kind of got postponed.
I think it was a week. I was a week away from hopping on the plane.
Yeah. We were. For folks, I'm not being clear. I'm vague booking. It's we had Deanna booked to do sound design for Billy Elliot as well, and we were 3 days away from starting rehearsals when we shut down, and you would have joined us a few days after that. So we came close to getting you back for a third time in a short period of time. So, which with your schedule was a miracle. So, but I want to take you back. I want to take you back a little. Can you take me back to little Deanna?
Yes.
And how did? Because I know, because I've seen photos. I'm going to bring up a photo now. This isn't of little Deanna. Don't worry. This isn't like a "this is your life" thing. But this will, I hope, indicate where this need to wear headphones and have a really good microphone at your house came in. And so there you are playing, and there's a very moody shot as well. Look at that. Is that your album? That's your album cover.
Oh yeah, that was at a friend's wedding actually. Their wedding ceremony was a concert because the bride and groom were very into music, so they got all their friends who are musicians to perform. It was a really beautiful time. So that's where those photos are from.
So so you started with music. I'm going to hazard a guess, but do you want to tell us how you got into this world?
Yes. I started playing the violin mostly because my sister played the violin. I thought, hey, that's really cool. I want to do that. So my mother signed me up for lessons. And my first lesson, I cried and I ran away from my teacher.
Oh no!
So that was a great start. After that, I recovered enough to eventually pursue it. I should have known, to be honest, that I was going to go into theater because the earliest memory that I have in growing up in Kingston was playing with my stuffed animals and enacting some sort of make-believe scene, but putting music on in the background and using that as a score to whatever adventure my stuffed animals were going on. So if that was an indication early on, I don't know what was.
That's really cool. So yeah, and was it violin you were playing solely, or did you get into other instruments too?
It was just violin. I sounded like a dead cat for a long time.
Okay.
I'm very grateful to my parents for putting up with that for many, many years.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of piano, some voice lessons as well, and then. But I only took that privately and ultimately didn't study music in undergrad. It just sort of hung in there as a lifelong passion. Yeah. And then in high school, I played in the pit band for a number of shows, as well as the Sears Drama Festival. I'm not sure if you have anything similar in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, we have a drama fest here. It was, you mean like a high school drama festival kind of thing?
Exactly. Yeah. So in Ontario, we have something like that for all the schools to participate in. So I got together with a few friends who were doing a show, and they asked me to either write music or play something on the violin as if it was another character in the show. So I guess that was technically my first sound design.
Well done. People are commenting, so I'm just going to bring a few comments up before we continue. And actually, there were a few comments before we actually went live as well when they heard you were coming. Yes.
Every Jean.
Every Jean. Hi, Every Jean.
Hi.
Yes. I think you're right. And Andrea Scott.
Yes.
The writer extraordinaire. And Andrew Chandler.
That's it.
I don't know whether that's an O or an ooh.
Oh, knowing him, probably go ooh.
Maybe he'll clarify.
Yeah.
Alison Bash is pleased to see you.
Hey, Alison. Hi.
Oh, and Avery Jean is here. Look at this. Awesome. So great. If you have any questions, folks, about sound, about Deanna, feel free to type them in and we'll answer some if we can. So there we go. So you're playing. Was there a moment? So how did you then get into theater? I've seen pictures of you, and I went on your Facebook. I must admit, I did a little bit of stalking, but I did not grab any photos of you that are clearly you performing. There was one involving splattered blood, which I thought would be fantastic. Now you're going to have to go and check your Facebook. I went back a few years. because I was
Okay.
just scrolling and I saw this photo. I was like, I'll show that photo, but then I thought I better not. But so you're a performer as well in all kinds of ways. Some kind of, as a performance artist. How did that all begin, and what was your first experience there?
Oh, wow. Well, that was, yes, a very dark time of my past life as a performer. No, I guess I always enjoyed theater in all its forms. So when I was little, my mother sent me to drama camp. Bless her. I played a very hungry turkey who was hell bent on getting her revenge for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Yes, so that was my debut on stage as a turkey, and no, it's I don't know. I think I just acting was a different kind of performance high than playing the violin was to me. There was
Yeah.
something about the immediacy of the audience engagement, and the reactions that you get. You know, you can make people laugh, or you're when performing music, there's or at least to me, there's a bit of a bubble in that sentence, whereas with acting, it really was that immediacy. So to me, that was highly intoxicating and addictive, and it was something that I didn't really pursue very extensively.
Yeah.
But it was hanging around the edges enough that it informed a lot of what playing violin was. I took a few performance classes in undergrad, and I noticed how that actually started to change the way that I played violin, the way that I tried to make performances more engaging with audiences. And so it had this dual relationship, which was a lot of fun to explore. And so in many ways, I would say that that informs how I design sound, because I try to approach it from both a perspective of what's this going to do for the audience and what is this going to do for the performer. Because
Right.
unlike film, the biggest difference with theater sound design is that the actors can still hear everything and they are affected by the sound design, as opposed to in film where everything is typically added in post-production.
Mm-hmm.
So
So when did you start to then, like you say, realize, those early games where you were playing music behind your games and underscoring your life, and your play, when did that become a thing, like an option, like, oh, I need to do that? Did somebody ask you to do it? Did you fall into it by accident because somebody needed someone to?
exactly, yeah, it was more by accident. In undergrad, a friend of mine, Adrian Young, was directing The Pillowman, or actually no, the first one was As You Like It, a Shakespeare play,
Right.
and he asked me to sound design it, and I didn't even know what that was at the time. So I wrote a few pieces of music, and also performed as part of the show as this live accompaniment to it, and same thing with The Pillowman by Martin McDonagh. And then I just got bitten by the bug, and suddenly there was this whole world, seeing the production side of things. Like, my favorite thing was actually sitting in production meetings and getting to hear what all the different departments were doing and how they created the magic behind the scenes, and getting to be a part of that suddenly opened up this entire world that I never knew as an actor and as a performer.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really cool. And this is really special.
You might be the only person that I've ever heard say that production meetings are cool. No, I love them too, because it's where you get into the nitty gritty and problem solving. And usually in production meetings, I get into trouble because I come up with ideas in the meetings and say, oh, that's a great idea. Can we do that? And everybody looks at me like I'm a lunatic.
Like, can a carriage shoot fire out of it? I don't know. I don't know. When would you ever try that? Pyro carriage?
Like, I might have said that. I might have, and that was a very early meeting, because I remember that they were talking about the Cinderella carriage, which I thought would be a great idea if not only did it appear magically on stage out of nowhere, but then also it started to fly up with pyro shooting down like jet engines. Oh,
yep. And you couldn't hear it in the show because the music was so loud at that point, but there was the sound of a Millennium Falcon taking off during that moment. Yeah.
Did you ever tell me that?
I thought I did.
I knew that there was a sound effect. I thought I knew that there was rocket sounds, Was it the Millennium Falcon?
It was, yeah. Yeah.
No, you didn't tell me, because if you told me, I would have been telling everybody else all the time.
Okay.
You kept secrets from me. Okay, let's. I want to go back a little again, but I want to, as you've mentioned, Cinderella. I want to jump to that. So, well, actually, let me ask you this: you are currently involved with a project, an ongoing project with the musical stage company in Toronto. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that'll lead on to my next question.
Sure. Well, the Musical Stage Company, who are a fantastic group of people to work with, I was fortunate enough to be one of their RBC apprentices this year. And so that's a multi-pronged approach, because part of that was to work as an assistant on a show. So I was supposed to work with William Fallon on Kelly v. Kelly, written by Greta Johnson and Sarah Farb. And then there's also a leadership component to it. So where you either work, consult, or collaborate on a project of your own with them. And then there's an educational component where they bring in specialists and experts in various fields and give master classes to these apprentices. And so it's a really fantastic program, because it really gives you opportunities to stretch yourself in all directions, and learn from the best. And unfortunately, with COVID, because all their projects came to a standstill, they still kept up the educational side. So, and instead of normally, I think the apprentices, the directing apprentice has a master class with a director, and the sound designer will have a master class with a sound designer. I was fortunate enough to actually get a Zoom class with Nevin Steinberg, who designed Hamilton, and that was a really exciting and interesting, and it was a great experience. But then they've also opened it up now so that all the apprentices sit in now on a Zoom class. So the lineups included Anne Hodges, Audrey Dwyer, Mike Ross, and that's been sort of continuing for the last few months.
So when you were with us, you kindly participated in our RBC, same sponsor. They love helping people. The RBC Chrysalis program, which is our mentorship training program, where we partner incoming, employed designers or directors, choreographers with artists from our community who are either wanting to gain on-the-job mentorship and experience, or are looking at sometimes a career change. I want to bring up a picture and tell me what's going on here. It's going to cover part of us up. Hold on, here we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. Who is that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. June Zink was my Chrysalis apprentice for Cinderella, and we had just a terrible time. She was just boring, just never listened, just never got me coffee. No, just kidding. It was
no coffee getting at Chrysalis.
No, it was she taught me a lot, actually. That's the
She taught you a lot.
She taught me a lot. This is the funniest thing I found about mentorship, is that it really forces you to think through everything that as a designer, because especially when you have a phenomenal Chrysalis apprentice like either June, who I had on Cinderella, or Alexander, who I had on Controlled Damage, they ask you a ton of questions, and things that normally have sort of become second nature to you. You suddenly have to take a step back and think, oh wait, how do I actually do that, and why?
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, and the process of breaking that down to someone, A, making it accessible, but B, also it then challenges, am I doing this because that's the way that I've always done it, and because that's how I was taught, or because there's a genuine reason behind it?
I've found exactly the same thing. I can't remember the exact number of chrysali that I've had the pleasure of working with. Now it's 5 or 6, and every single one has been wonderful and experienced, but every single one has asked me questions where I'm like, oh yeah, I have to talk about what I'm doing and re-experience it. Hold on a second. I'm getting a little, oh yeah. I wish I had a sound effect of a call coming in. Hold on. Wait a second. Oh, wait a June Zink.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
How did we even know? How did you do that?
Oh my gosh.
Just willed it.
Magic.
Look at that.
Thank you.
I'm just going to leave you to chat now. Bye.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Hi. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see your face.
So good to see you too.
Now, what's interesting is as soon as we
Okay.
bring June into the picture, Deanna, your sound has started being delayed. So you're talking and then your mouth moves. Just to let you know that
Okay.
your sound is now affected by this gathering of sound designers.
There's been a disturbance in the force.
I know. I've not felt one since. Anyway, so June, what was it like having? I mean, this is such an obvious question. What was it like having Deanna as a mentor?
Well, she said it. It was pretty terrible, pretty boring. Didn't laugh at all. It was great because I had the opportunity to design before that, but I didn't know a lot of the language and the science behind it, which is really where Deanna blew my mind on several occasions. But it was great because it was a very, right from the beginning, a very safe kind of mentor-y kind of relationship, because I could ask any questions, and no matter how stupid the question, it wasn't a stupid question. She treated it like it was a legit.
Sure. And you were
question.
actually, I think, from what I remember observing, and it's been the way I think with most of our Chrysalis work, is that we've really been trying to encourage the mentors and the mentees to work as a partnership and to actually have you involved. I remember you being involved. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially in the rehearsal hall when Deanna was downstairs doing like tuning speakers and somebody had to be up in the room, I got to be involved in that, which was my first big show kind of sound experience. And then also I because it was a panto that you wrote, a lot of changes happened that the script had to be updated for Joe, who mixed the show, which was often a lot of additional sound cues and offstage singing and stuff like that. So it was very much, I didn't just sit back and watch. It was, what's your opinion here? Go stand on stage, see what you hear kind of thing, which was great.
I think you very politely just pointed out that because it was a new show, we were constantly changing things and making stuff up on the fly.
That's the nature of new shows, though. Until it opens, it's in a state of flux.
Yes, because I don't do that on other shows, just brand new ones. I'm going to play you both a little tiny video clip. It's like a couple of seconds long.
Oh, no.
I've got a couple of these, and because I wanted to hear some of the sound. Now, Deanna, can you remember when we first spoke about the show, your brief? What did I say to you? Do you even remember because I remember, so I'll tell if you don't. What did I say about the style of the show? Do you remember at all? What was your understanding?
I don't know if this was in the brief or later on, but certainly you told me that Monty Python was one of your big influences.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was basically that and the notion that I really wanted sound to play a part in the comedy of the show and that it should be in the forefront in the same way that a Looney Tunes cartoon might really ride the back of a sound effect and actually ride the back of the sound effect into the dirt until the audience has been slapped around the face. That's kind of my approach.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
With life. So let me play you this one. This is a subtle one. This was a sequence, and now I've stuck a couple of photos so we can actually see the sound effect, if you like. This isn't necessarily the exact moment that it comes. And thank you to the performers for giving away their images months ago so I can play these photos.
Dirty Nellies, Mike. I said Dirty Nellies, Argyle. They're waiting.
What was going on there? Let's just play it again.
Dirty Nellies, Mike. I said Dirty Nellies, Argyle. They're waiting.
So that's Andrew Chandler's voice.
It is.
I didn't realize.
That was a hilarious voiceover moment because it's almost like the Cyrano de Bergerac kind of style of the prince and Cinderella meet for the first time at the ball, but he's exceptionally nervous about talking to women or talking to someone he's interested in. So he has this earpiece set up with his best friend Bouton, who
Mhm.
is supposed to feed him some kind of romantic dialogue, except we get interference from the cab radio, from the radio station, as well as the local taxi dispatcher, which is kind of hilarious because as a sound designer, that is actually sometimes a true problem that you run into when you're dealing with radio microphones on stage, right? The wireless frequencies. So
That's
anyway.
great. That's why I put it in there, trying to update that Serrano shtick. And Props made this fantastic ear, but there was and that was a very brief moment of many sound effects in that sequence because it's constant noise in poor Ryan's ear. Here's one, a little tiny one that you made when the fairy godmother made a joke about Halifax finally having a certain store. It's just beautiful. She mentioned IKEA. I noticed actually in a lot of the sound effects that Martha Irving figures in a lot of sound effect heavy moments. Here's one. This is actually my favorite, and I'm going to play this with my kids tomorrow morning because they're going to love this moment. Hold on. Wow. We were so grown up with that show. That's the fairy godmother flying and landing and crashing and maybe being a little gaseous. And so you layered lots of different elements together on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Were you building that so would you build something like that in the rehearsal hall?
Essentially, yeah. I think June, you saw what I was doing behind the scenes. There were a number of things when you told me that it was in the Looney Tunes style that I just had stock cues kind of on the ready. For some choice moments, things like, a rim shot when someone in rehearsal made a joke that was on a hotkey, so I could just instantly access that. Exactly. And then others sort of became more layered and complex as we went on because we wanted to have both the magical side of the fairy godmother so that the fairy tale aspect is very obvious. But at the same time, there's sort of a modern, contemporary spin on it. So you have the sound of a rocket trying to take or a motorcycle or something, but failing.
Right.
And then the button at the end of her flatulence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, June, do you? Is it fair to say, because you've sound designed shows yourself now at Neptune, and what was the name of the show where you had a crazy, silly, large amount of sound cues? It was all sound cues.
Oh, yeah, there was Half Cracked, Legend of Sugar Mary.
Legend of Sugar Mary.
349 sound cues by the end of it.
Oh.
People always like, oh, it is a lot. But Ingrid had to call that show every night, and so the stage manager had to do 349 sound cues every night.
That's crazy.
I apologized after. That's
we're going to let you go, June, but is there anything you want to say? I know you keep watching. Is there anything you want to say to your friend before I throw you out?
I miss you, and I'm sorry we couldn't see you on Billy Elliot. It was so good to work with you again. But yeah, you have to move to Halifax now. It's just the end of it.
Oh yeah, right. Like we're going to persuade her to do that. Although we're very safe down here now, so
it's true.
It's tempting. It's very tempting.
All right, June. Thanks for coming by and doing a little surprise visit. Good to see you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Have a good night.
That was nice that she came by.
It was wonderful. That was an excellent surprise.
Our security system here is terrible. Anyone can get in.
I feel like I'm on Jay Leno or something right now.
Yeah, you kind of. You've also composed scores for film. There's a poster here for one of the. I don't know whether that was one of many, or tell me about that. How did you get into film scoring? Well, again, was it just you being asked by someone?
Essentially, yeah. I feel like that's how a lot of these gigs sort of start up. There's certainly a lot of overlap with film in terms of. The aspects of just the mechanics of writing music and collaborating with a director. But the thing about film is that once they have what you call picture lock or time code, then you have to make all your musical cues very precise too, where the camera changes angles, where the scene ends, where the dialogue fits in. And sometimes it takes, multiple iterations of doing that over and over again as you get updated cuts from the editor and the director. Whereas in theater, because it's inherently a shifting medium, every night an actor might speak slower or faster on a given night. Instead of locking things to time code, you find other, what you call call points. As June was saying earlier about Ingrid having to call all those sound cues, there's a really special relationship between, say a lighting, video, or sound designer, especially with stage management, because they are essentially the performer. They and the technician are the performer of your design.
Right.
And you can create the most gorgeous effect or the most interesting cue sequence, but if it doesn't line up timing wise to where the action's happening on stage or the dialogue, then you've lost half the battle already.
Yeah.
So that becomes a really integral aspect of theater.
Yes, and I guess for the layperson, they're not aware of the other two people involved. They will either blame the people that they can see directly in front of them, or because something doesn't feel right, or they will blame, they're like, oh, the sound design was a bit off. But they're forgetting that there's more people involved in that moment, in that relationship. Yeah, I love watching during cue to cue, when we're rehearsing and doing levels, watching the sound designers and the lighting designers go through that timing and relationship building with the stage manager to get what you need, how fast it's called, when it's called, what kind of breath it needs. It's always very exciting to watch that coming together. I have a question from the audience for you. What sound gives you the most joy?
Oh gosh. There's a lot. I mean, I think the sound that I enjoyed creating the most on Cinderella, that was a bucket list cue of mine, is the coconuts.
Oh,
yeah, because I mean Monty Python, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And let me take Evgene's question one step further. So forgetting theater,
mhm.
you were just to hear a sound. What sound in nature or in the world gives you the most joy?
That's really interesting.
I think we stumped you.
You have stumped me. I mean, what's actually been very interesting about COVID is just less so now because things are starting to open up in Toronto. But for the first few weeks when things are really in lockdown, the sound of the city had really dissipated. And normally there's this low level hum, mostly from traffic and, industrial fans and all these things going on in the background that just, it's this incessant noise that you don't hear when you're in the countryside. Actually, yeah, I think it's the sound of just being out somewhere rural, like around dusk, where it's really quiet, but there's just that little bed of crickets.
Oh, yes.
On a summer night. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So you were with us with this group of people. There you are next to Leanne Vardy on the left-hand side of the picture for Cinderella. And then you came back to join this group of wonderful people for Controlled Damage. There's the poster there as well. Couldn't be more different as a piece of theater. Two vastly different pieces. Tell me about your Controlled Damage experience.
Wow. Well, I think for starters, Controlled Damage, what was really the thing about that piece was that it was probably the closest professional experience that I had to the last one I did while I was in school. it was that experience in school that even inspired me to become a sound designer in the first place. And what was really special about this was just the degree to which I was embedded in the process. So I wrote the music, also was acting as a sort of musical director. And that was sort of the background that I came from, where you're in the room from day one and you get to participate in all these discussions about what's the role of music in a show. Why is there music in this show? Because Controlled Damage is a new play. I had these fantastic conversations with the playwright early on. That really informed the whole narrative that we're trying to bring on stage, and informed the rehearsal process as well. And that's because the music was the appearance of song or music was written into the script. Exactly. So Andrea Scott had written. Yes, she had she had written a number of songs that really spoke to her. That had either a historical context or an emotional quality that we were trying to achieve in the piece. So she wrote those into the script, as well as a new song that she wrote lyrics to, the one that's at the end of Act 1. So that's a completely original song. A lot of the other songs were based on, they come from the gospel tradition. And so Jeremiah Sparks and Cindy Kane, who have a phenomenal background in that world, they took the lead on that. And the rest of the ensemble was incredibly supportive. Everyone was just so game to jump into this world and be generous and be kind and compassionate to each other, regardless of what singing experience they had. It was a room full of great voices, but not everyone was, came from a musical theater background, let's say, but it didn't matter. And that was what was beautiful about that. Awesome. And is it extra exciting then getting to be part of the creative team on something that is seeing the light of day for the first time ever? So your involvement, your stamp of creativity is emerging for the first time into the light with that play. Yeah, I think it's, in addition to the stamp of creativity, it's really the ability to create something that is as close to what the playwright wants. And that's what allows you to create a cohesive experience, because a lot of times as a sound designer, you're brought in for various reasons, but you might be brought in later into a process. So you kind of throw in to the best of your knowledge what the director is looking for, and based on the hints that you have from set and costume and what world this is. But with a new play, you really have an opportunity. So what I was referring to before is if it's an existing script being remounted by a company. Certainly there are a lot of things that you draw from the director's vision. But in a case like this, where really we had, Nigel Sean Williams, the director, and we had conversations of our own, then we looped Andrea in. It was really, we could create the show that she wrote. Show that she envisioned. And it's what you said earlier when we were chatting in the green room about what is it like to get inside someone's head. That to me is, so I have a psychology background, and I think that's why I love theater, because it's this puzzle. It's what is the playwright trying to say with this? What have they written? And then what's the subtext that they want the audience to get? Because you can be really, in a show like Cinderella, the comedy is in being sort of very in your face and being upfront with the cues. But in a show like Controlled Damage, it's the complete opposite. It's trying to get under people's skin. Let them feel that experience. Because we were, right off the get-go, we were saying this is not a heritage minute. This is not a historical reenactment of what happened. No. This is us in 2020 telling a story based on historical characters, but we're talking about now. Yes. And given Black Lives Matter right now, it seems ever more pertinent. Right. And that script, I remember when I read it, a year or 18 months earlier, the draft at that time, when Andrea and I were first talking about
it being part of the Neptune season, that what you just said really jumped off the page. So I really appreciate hearing you say that, because it's like, oh yeah, so you really dove into that to get away from that Heritage Minute thing, which would be awful. You have, I know from experience of trying to book you for shows that you're very busy, or before pre-COVID, you were very busy, and I'm sure you were booked through this whole time. You have worked, well, everywhere. I'm not going to read the list. And then also, oh look, there's a second caption. Neptune's in there somewhere. There we are. So an impressive resume. Do you find that as an artist, is work now coming to you because people are hearing about you, recommend you, see your work, hear your work, experience it, or is it about relationships? How does that side of things work in the design world? Are you chasing work, or is it chasing you?
It's a very strange concept, the idea of getting work in this business, I find,
Yeah.
especially as a designer, because there's not the sort of, there's no open call audition process for a designer. Very rarely is there a job posting. And it's probably one of the most common questions I get from, let's say Chrysalis Apprentice or someone else I'm working with. And it's a question that I asked many times when I was starting out, is how do you get work as a designer, as a sound designer or any kind of designer? As you alluded to just now, so much of it is based on relationships, based on directors, writers, producers, pretty much anyone who you come into contact with who might have an idea, who might like the way that you think about storytelling, who might like the way that you talk in rehearsal about. It doesn't even have to be a theater. It might just come from personal conversation that you have, as an aside in rehearsal, and they say, hey, I'm actually working on a show right now, a one-person, cabaret or something.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a designer. Are you interested? And you say yes. And it's a springboard. One thing leads to another, and then eventually you develop this community, and there are people who you might really enjoy working with, who you create a lot of Star Wars based and other very geeky sound effects for, who might then hire you back for a show that has no Star Wars cues whatsoever.
I know. Well, we would have managed to squeeze one into Billy Elliot.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Because it was actually set around about the time of at least one of the Star Wars films. We would have done it. Yeah, we would have done it. Also, I want to offer you some congratulations. You're probably quite humble and don't want to talk about it, but it's my show. So you just received an award. Can you tell us what the Pauline MacGibbon Award is for people here in Nova Scotia who don't know, maybe, and what's it connected to, and what did you do?
I didn't do anything. I ate a lot of Doritos. So Pauline MacGibbon was the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, and so this award is given out annually by the province of Ontario, administered through the Ontario Arts Council, and a panel that they have every year. And it's specifically for a theater artist, usually who's in the emerging or early stages of their career. And it rotates on a cycle every 3 years. So one year it'll be a director, the next year it will be a production craftsperson, and the third year it'll be a designer. So I was fortunate enough to receive this. And
congratulations.
Yeah.
That just happened, right? A week or so ago.
Yes. Yeah. It was just announced a week ago as part of the Dora press conference.
Cool. Do you get some hardware? Do you get some nifty hardware, or what?
I received a medal.
A medal?
Yes, so it's engraved with the likeness of Pauline MacGibbon. And there's also a cash element as well. So
very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's cool. It's been so lovely to chat with you and have you here. Our time has come to 45 minutes. How did that happen?
I don't know.
That was that June Zink. She kept us chatting all that extra time. It was great to talk to you. Great to connect with you. I am still so bitterly disappointed that Billy Elliot was postponed, and I'm saying that for everyone else's sake, not yours. But I look forward to getting you back in the Neptune building in the near future. So everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, Deanna. You stay exactly where you are, and I'll say farewell to everyone. This is the end of the week for Off the Leash. Thanks for being here. If you've been around all week or just tonight, thank you for your viewership. And we are back next Thursday, where we go into weekly shows, and we'll announce our guests as we go at the top of the week. Stay safe. Thanks again to Support for Culture, and we will see you soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you.